What is going on, guys? Cinema World from Cinema Delicious here, back with another year-end video for y'all today. And as for today's year-end video, I'm gonna give what I think are the most disappointing films to come out in 2025. And it's fortunate, not only do we have a lot of surprises, we always have a lot of disappointments. So there's always that one movie that you're always like excited for, that you're like, yeah, I can't wait, and then it'll let you down in some way. And it could be for a lot of different reasons, whether it be from a franchise that you love, it could be from an actor or director that you love. It may have an engaging premise. You might be really interested in the trailers, but you have something that makes you so excited for it, but yet you end up leaving and be like, man, I really wish I liked that more. And that's unfortunate that's something that always happens, honestly, because it does happen a lot. A lot every year. There's always at least a few movies that just ends up making you feel so let down. Now, obviously, some are more worse than others, obviously, but there definitely was some of those movies that came out this year. Movies I was excited for, one way or another, they just end disappointed. And again, disappointment doesn't mean entirely bad, honestly. It's one, there might be like at least one or two bad movies on this list. There definitely are some movies. Most movies aren't really on balance. Hell, maybe like a couple of them, honestly, I still enjoy, honestly. It just when it comes to my hype level I was and what I ended up being, it's still what makes it disappointing. Yeah, and definitely was some cases. So I hope you'll enjoy the list and let me know what films in 2025 disappoint you the most down below. But before we get to the actual top, I think that I'm talking about 10 movies, honestly. Let's get into 10 honorable mentions. Films I thought have been more disappointed just did not end up making the list and won't perform. The first I'll mention is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Again, a pretty lackluster movie, unfortunately. Again, I thought that really thought the film was solid enough, and also the sequel would improve on it, but unfortunately it didn't. It wasn't the most excited for this, why it's not on the actual list, but yeah, it makes me not really excited for the other ones. Fear Street Prom Queen. I actually really thought the hell of the previous Fear Street movies, honestly, and unfortunately this kind of killed any interest I have with the franchise. Hurry Up Tomorrow, the latest film from Trey Edward Schultz, guided Decretia in Waves. And this is kind of also based on The Weeknd's last album. And while it's not bad by any means, honestly, I do admire the ambition. The ambition is doing work as well. A Working Man. A Jason Statham action movie with David Ayer directing and Sylvester Stallone writing the script. Again, not a bad movie by any means, but it's definitely one of Jason Statham's less fun action movies. Just not really a worth watch, honestly. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, I know it's really the person I'm most disappointed, honestly, but I was hoping it would actually impress me, honestly, in some way, because it definitely had potential to do so. And why I don't think it's bad, also think it's bad, honestly, it's just more okay at best. It's like, it goes in directions where I'm like, damn. Especially when they did one character, and we're like, really? Really? Love Hurt, an action movie starring Ke Huy Quan. Again, just a poor action movie, and from an actor that honestly I'm always excited to see, honestly, but he does make better. I wish he was in better movies, honestly. That's like the only reason why the film makes the most disappointing, honestly. The Electric State. Man, the Rooster Brothers really have not been the greatest adventures. The Stranger Chapter 2. I can't this franchise, and this character could have been interesting, actually, but yeah. I wasn't excited for both these on, but trying to not actual list, but it's more because of the directors and the concept and everything like that makes them close to not being on the list. Tron Ares. Again, I enjoyed the film overall, but it definitely could have been a lot better, and I feel like we're not going to see a Tron movie after this, considering how much it bombed. And the last I'll mention is Springsteen, the Bruce Street biopic. Again, pretty much a lot of the same issues I have a lot of biopics that came out in the last 10 years. Just doesn't really explore much of the actual personality, despite the actor giving a great performance. It just doesn't really do what biopic really should do. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it could be a lot. But as my mentions, let's get to the actual top 10. Now, coming number 10, the first disappointing movie we're talking about on this list, we have Bring Her Back. And despite meaning the fact that disappointing took me back, honestly, I actually think this is still a solid movie, honestly. Like, this is actually from the directors from Talk to Me that came out a couple years ago, which if I remember correctly, actually made my best films that the year it came out. Actually, I think it was one of my favorite horror movies that year. It was actually a pretty interesting movie that has some really solid humor, has some really great scares, and a pretty great concept. I'm not sure if I want to be a franchise, honestly, but I think it was actually pretty effective at what I was trying to do. Those kids weren't gonna do bring it back, especially with the concept it hails, honestly. And it's one of the movies that was honestly great, if not fantastic, until the last 30 minutes. Again, if you've seen them, I'm not gonna get into details, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean by that. It goes in a direction that just kind of sours what makes the other aspects of the movie so great. So while I still think it's a solid film overall, I would still recommend bringing it back. It is definitely a movie that could have been on the up to greatness. It could have been actually close to being on my best films of the year, actually, but it's just one of those films that just didn't stick the landing, in my opinion. And I'll go from one horror movie to the next. Honestly, at number 9, it's just The Conjuring Last Rites. I'm not ready to put The Conjuring movie and my most spoiled, honestly, but it's because, it's just unfortunate what this franchise has become, honestly. Like, I still stand by the first two movies as some of the best horror movies of the 2010s, honestly. I think both of them actually made my best films of those years, actually. And then both of them were my favorite horror movies those years, actually, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think they were my favorite horror movies that year, honestly. But once the franchise has gone mostly down here to one more, could be on a couple of solid movies like Amber Creation. That was a really good one, honestly, and I think I'm kind of grown on Amber Comes Home a little bit. Then I wanted to range from okay to mediocre to bad, honestly. In Conjuring 3 is the film I think I've kind of grown less on me the more I think about it. Especially the also the director of The Curse of La Llorona, which I think people could actually was that's kind of set in the universe, but not actually a Conjuring movie. Yeah, it's probably the most forgettable movie ever. Like, I don't know what happens in that movie, but the reason he had to they put him on Conjuring 3, in that movie, you really do feel James Wan's absence in that movie. So while I won't call it bad by any means, I don't think it ruins any of the previous movies. It's just not as effective, and that's honestly what I can say this movie too. But while it does kind of go back to a lot of the family drama that made the first two movies so great, in terms of, scares and everything like that, and what horror movies sure do, it just doesn't deliver. And also the fact that this is supposed to be the last movie of these characters, but considering how this is probably one of the most highest grossing movies in the franchise, or if not the highest grossing movie, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And of course, with the recent announcement of Conjuring TV series, I'm like, yeah, that just makes it even less to where why would definitely Outpiper is actually better than Conjuring 3, honestly. Again, it could have been so great and does have some good moments of some solid characters. But in terms of being a horror movie, it just doesn't do what a horror movie really should do. Yeah, I realize this is the third horror movie we're talking about here, actually. I did not realize this being actually a horror movie, actually. But number 8, we have Until Dawn. Yeah, I was actually kind of curious what we're going to do with Until Dawn adaptation, of course, based on the 2015 video game, which there was going to be actually a long time to actually finally play through, honestly. I generally love the game, honestly. I generally dug the hell out of Until Dawn. It definitely is a film that just knows what it is. It does live on the scares, lives on the characters, lives on the choice-based aspect, the butterfly effect aspect. Honestly, I still not played the companies at other games that came out that are currently choice-based and all that stuff, so I don't know, honestly. But Until Dawn is definitely, in my opinion, a fantastic game. So I was curious when I do an adaptation, honestly. I actually did not watch much of the trailers in the market, honestly, so I know they apparently actually changing the aspect which I feel like it's the big symptoms these adaptations don't follow source material and just going for his own thing. And it's like, really? Which you realize that that's probably why the franchise is not really the greatest in terms of movies. Yeah, but I love him because obviously it was directed by David F. Sandberg, who obviously is a very great horror director and just a great director in general. Even if Chance Really Gods was not the greatest, honestly, but I don't really blame it on him, honestly. And the movie was just okay at best. It definitely has its moments for sure, honestly, and it definitely looks great visually for sure, honestly. I think in terms of visuals, in terms of how it looks, it does capture that aspect of the games. But it just feels like more in concept, because it just feels like your typical time loop horror movie, with just generic characters, generic scares, and just doesn't really do much of anything to really hook you. Again, not a bad movie, just one I wish I enjoyed a lot more. Now coming in number 7, we have Egerton, which is the latest film from Ari Aster. To where if you follow my channel for a while, honestly, you guys know I actually do admire Ari Aster, honestly. I mean, Hereditary is one of my favorite horror movies, not favorite films ever. That film is a film that gets better the more I think about it and the more I watch it. It's honestly my favorite horror movie of 2010s in general, one of my top 10 favorite horror movies in general. And the movie that continues to climb up on my favorite films and film that I just absolutely love and adore. Love, 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 and adore. Love, 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 and adore. Anyway, then we did Midsummer, which is a film that honestly, I agree, I thought it was solid honestly, but I'm not loving everyone else's. And both of I thought was great honestly, though it's a film that actually it's one and done honestly. But so I was between all Ari Aster's film honestly. X-Men's probably later honestly. I think it's more just about the Ari Aster was directing honestly, and it definitely had an interesting concept, living what life was COVID and living like a basically like a COVID-like movie and spoiling enough of COVID in this town and everything and all the shenanigans and all the insane things that go on, which I'll be honest, this is really the most entertaining to watch. Like I don't really hate the movie honestly, much more because but again, it is commonly directed. Ari Aster can really direct the movie. It does have fantastic performances. It does have some interesting elements. It just wasn't a fun to watch. Those elements I mentioned are why I don't think it's a bad movie by any means, but again, it's really because of Ari Aster that I put it on this list. And as with to put this movie on my most disappointing movie at number 6, but we have Happy Gilmore 2. I'll say this. I don't hate the movie as much as everyone else does. I don't hate the movie. I know some people have it on the worst movie of the year, honestly. I don't see some people, it's one of those where I think I see some people they enjoyed it or some people say that it was terrible. And I realize I see some people who enjoyed it actually attacked the critics that actually thought it was terrible. Like I remember a couple of YouTubers that I watched on got attacked greatly because they didn't like Happy Gilmore 2. And again, I'm someone that's just more in the middle, honestly, to where I feel like I was hoping I'll have some fun with this because Happy Gilmore is my favorite, is probably up there as my favorite Adam Sandler. I never thought of it. Because either this movie, The Wedding Singer, or Big Daddy is my favorites, but Happy Gilmore isn't top 3 for sure. It's a very fun, great Adam Sandler movie, and maybe it actually could have worked honestly, and it could have been a lot of fun honestly. And unfortunately, it wasn't. I mean, first 3 minutes from what it does, and the first 3 minutes, you're like, this is not a good sign. And the movie in general is just like a lot of cameos and callbacks, which honestly I think is the worst thing you could do in a comedy sequel or a sequel in general. Just like all it does have to do is just callback or so much to the original, have a lot of cameos when in reality it makes you just want to go back and watch the original. I do think it has its fun moments. I don't say it does have its fun hilarious moments. I don't say it's all bad, honestly, but I just wish I enjoyed it more. And now coming in at the top 5, at number 5, we have Captain America: Brave New World. I feel like anytime I don't like MCU movies, or it's going to make the most disappointing list, honestly. And the reason why it's not number 1 or high on is because obviously, this film was hearing all the production issues in this movie, like, yeah, this film was probably great either way, honestly, but I was hoping you would prove me wrong. And overall, I think the film was just fine, honestly. I don't hate the movie. I don't think it's like a disaster. I don't think it's like one of the worst superhero movies ever. And all that stuff. It's just a perfectly fine movie. I mean, with Captain America, Falcon himself doesn't feel like a character in his own movie. It feels like more of an Incredible Hulk sequel, which I'm not opposed to that, honestly. It's just like you decide to do that in a Captain America movie, the first one, without Steve Rogers. Yeah. And one of those I actually were pretty fun, honestly, again, seeing Harrison Ford was great, and the other Hulk stuff was pretty entertaining, honestly. And it definitely is one of the more focused MCU movies in terms of, at least in terms of like setting up stuff and just narratively and all that stuff, and even addressing certain things. The movie's all in general feels like it's just wavering so much, honestly, and you're just not really sure what it's trying to tell or what it's trying to say. And even the action is not, aside from the Hulk stuff, isn't really that memorable. Yeah, so I feel like anytime MCU movie is going to be below, honestly, it's always going to be disappointing, honestly. So yeah, it's not high, obviously, because obviously, again, I don't think it was going to be great anyway, considering all the production issues it was dealing with, but like I said before, I was hoping to prove me wrong. And number 4, I don't think I actually got around to actually talk about this movie, honestly, but number 4, we have Him. I feel that from the trailers, I actually think it was going to be a pretty interesting movie, honestly. I think basically a metaphorical art house movie, but it's a football movie. As you've seen, this guy going through all the crazy shit, just doing be the next big football player and all that stuff. And then trying to hammer in your face that this was produced by Jordan Peele. When in reality, yeah, it's funny because obviously he's not directed, but he was produced by. It's produced by Jordan Peele. movie was just whatever, honestly. And it definitely had potential to be like an engaging and interesting look on like football and like sports and like this and that, honestly, in terms of football and all that stuff. And it's just one of the films that just knows when you know the message tries to tell, it just beats you over the head with it. And while it does have some fantastic visuals that generally kind of feel like it's just like a music video at times, honestly. Like, it really just feels like sometimes it's so visually great, but it feels like a music video at times. And Marlon Wayans does give one hell of a performance. I will not deny that. It's overall this movie that just felt mad towards. It's just, well, I don't remember much, fortunately. It happened, considering the concept and the visuals and everything. I was hoping it would deliver, but unfortunately, it didn't. And now we get to the top three. I mean, the top three actually were pretty definitive, honestly. These were the definitive, like, most disappointing films, honestly. I feel like all these films, one thing that all three of these films all have in common is that they were from a director that had made some great stuff, honestly. A director that has done some really fantastic stuff. But unfortunately, they just want to let me down. Whereby number three, going to Fixed, which is now the second starring and pitching that came out this year, aside from K-pop Team Hunters. But this is the latest film from Jenny Tartakovsky, who, of course, is the guys on the grew up country network in the 90s and 2000s. You guys would know who Jenny Tartakovsky is. The guy obviously that did like Dexter's Laboratory, the Clone Wars micro series, and of course, I'll get back to the past that noon on the shack. Whoosha! Samurai Jack. And he's also the guy that did the whole Transylvania, Hotel Transylvania, which I know is not Everett's cup of tea, but I am enjoying this movie. And he also did Primal, which I did actually watch a couple years ago, which I think is a fantastic show. But the guy is insanely talented. I'm not sure what he's going to do with an R-rated talking dog movie. And again, it's never honestly, I don't hate much else does. I don't hate this movie as much as everyone else does. I know a lot of people say it's like a disaster, one of the worst anime movies of all time. But again, it's not what I thought was just okay at best. It definitely has its charming moments. It definitely has its fun elements to it. Probably this movie that Jenny Tartakovsky had working for many years. Yeah, I don't know how long it was, but I know it's like super long that he's been working on this idea. And you kind of tell at times, honestly. And the animation was okay, honestly. It can have its charm, it can have its fun moments here and there, and even though obviously the raunchiness can be a bit too much at times. Because it was like this already talking dog movie, and yeah, if you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about, and that's. Yeah, but again, it's more high up on 6 times than it is from Jenny Tartakovsky, and I expected like always pure greatness from him. So, yeah, it's okay at best, not a total disaster by any means, but it's one that could have been so much better. And now at number 2, I find that both of these movies I'm going to be talking about actually are films that actually released back in January. Actually, yeah, both and again, both of them are directors that do great work, honestly, but just one disappointing. But my number 2 being Wolfman. The first true disappointment to come out. One of the first true disappointments. Most because it was directed by Leigh Whannell, the guy that used to be like involved in James Wan movies in terms of writing a lot of his movies, and decided to go on his own project. Directed like 3 great movies, with in Chapter 3, Upgrade, and The Invisible Man. 3 genuinely great and awesome movies. Again, Chapter 3 being one of the better horror prequels, Upgrade being a badass action movie, and The Invisible Man being one of the best horror movies of the 2020s. And basically doing another like kind of Universal Monster movie, honestly, was pretty exciting, honestly. The only unfortunate thing about this movie is that it just ends up being painfully forgettable, right? I don't even remember much what happens in this movie, actually. Like, I do know it had a great concept to it. I can see the ideas and everything they're trying to go for. It just didn't deliver on scales, but also on the themes they were trying to go for. I feel like it was kind of hand-fisted to you ahead of time, honestly. And while there are some solid performances here, and why I do remember there being like solid performances and the occasional good moment here and there, it just didn't really deliver like the emotion or the intensity that I really want to deliver, because they don't really care much about what goes on with the characters. And again, considering this is freaking Leigh Whannell, I expected so much more. But now we get to it. My number 1 most disappointing movie of 2025 is Flight Risk, the latest movie from Mel Gibson. Again, say what you will about Mel Gibson, the guy is talented. I mean, this is the guy that did Passion of the Christ, Braveheart, and his last movie was Hacksaw Ridge, which, won a ton of Oscars, which, was nominated for a lot of Oscars, and it's one of the best war movies to come out in recent memory. I mean, it was an incredible movie for a lot of reasons. Like, it was a really harrowing movie, and people wondering when he was going to do another movie, and he finally did it. He decided to do like generic, bland action movie with Mark Wahlberg, Topher Grace, and also Mark Wahlberg doing one more his with Mark Wahlberg giving one of his voice performances he has given, honestly. To what I get what he was trying to do here. Like, apparently, I think he actually shaved his head for this performance, if I remember correctly. He just hammered up too much, honestly. The film is just stupid for way the logic. Usually that doesn't bother me a lot sometimes, but it really does bother me here. Maybe it's just like questionable and just not fun. It doesn't have like the thrills or the energy of the dumb fun. Even when it tries to have dumb fun, it just does not work. It's just because you're in the genre, like, am I supposed to have fun with this? And again, the humor doesn't land, the action does not land. It just feels like so repetitive at times. Honestly, feel like the same thing happening again. And again, considering that his last movie was like a genuine war movie, and he came to this, which this movie I'm saying is actually bad. Like, is this generally a bad movie? Ends up being why Flight Risk ends up being my most disappointing movie of 2025. Well, guys, that is my top 10 most disappointing movies 2025. Let me know what your most disappointing movies down below in the comment section. Let me know if there are movies I missed on this list that I should have put on this list. Again, let me know yours down below in the comments. Again, the next one is going to be on my most underrated, so stay tuned for that. I am Cinema World from Cinema Productions. I will see you next time. As always, stay cool, Peace.